All right, I am showing 1600, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So hey there, everyone. I am Captain Val Flores, and welcome to the 13N Town Hall. Before we get started, will have a couple rules of engagement for today's Town Hall. So if you are joining us live, please mute all your microphones and phones throughout the entirety of the meeting. If you have any questions that come up during the brief, please just type them into the chat and we'll cover them during the Q&A at the end. Now, during the Q&A, you can use the raise hand function and you can ask your question verbally once we call on you. If you dialed in over the phone and can't access the chat functions, again, just please hold those questions till the Q&A portion and then feel free to speak up at that point when you hear a pause. So if you're tuning into this video at a later time, you will still be able to ask us your questions. You'll see our contact information at the end of the briefing there. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us because answering all of your questions is the #1 priority for this forum. Okay, so before we get into the full brief, I'll tell you a little bit about me so you know who is talking to you. So as I said before, I'm Captain Val Flores. I'm originally from Colorado Springs, and I'm a 2017 USAFA grad. I was in Squadron 37 and then graduated out of 11. So I chose 13N mainly because I wanted to do ops rather than a support function, but I couldn't be a pilot, so this was the perfect career for me. After graduating, I completed tech school out at Vandenberg Space Force Base and then PCS to Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana, where I stayed for 6 years. During those 6 years, I did my crew time pulling alert. I became a squadron instructor and evaluator. I worked in the plans and targeting shop, and then I led a flight of about 20 people as a flight commander to finish out my time there. After that, I PCS'd here to the Pentagon, where I currently work in the 13N Career Field Management Office. I absolutely love this career field, so I'm excited to get the word out to as many cadets as possible on what it has to offer. I'm joined on the line today by our Deputy Branch Chief, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Stump, and Colonel Dave Kaya, who is our 13N Career Field Manager. I'm not sure if he has gotten on the line yet, but they will both be there probably during the Q&A at the end to help us answer some questions. We also have a handful of other briefers on the line, and they'll share some of their experiences, but I'll let them introduce themselves as they begin each of their slides. So let's get into it. All right, today you'll get a crash course on strategic deterrence, and then I'll highlight the critical role of nuclear and missile operations in supporting it. And then once you have a grasp on what it is we do in this career field, I'll go over the different locations available for 13Ns to fulfill those different missions. Then you'll hear from the officers I mentioned earlier who are serving in some of the key positions at the missile wings, out at Vandenberg Space Force Base, whether at the schoolhouse or in weapon system testing, at Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska, doing airborne ops, as well as an officer who's working on the development of Sentinel, which is our new ICBM. And then at the end, as I mentioned before, we'll go into your questions and have plenty of time for discussion. The goals for most of our time today to be for Q&A, so we can talk about whatever it is that you all want to know. Okay, so here's the crash course. Strategic deterrence boils down to influencing or preventing adversary action. This old Western standoff graphic is an easy way to remember how strategic deterrence works, which is reliant on what we call the 3 Cs. So you have capability, credibility, and communication. Now, capability is just that. It's what do we have and what can it do? In the United States case, we have our nuclear triad consisting of our nuclear submarines, strategic bombers, and my personal favorite leg of the triad, of course, our ICBMs. And then credibility is our willingness to use those capabilities. So deterrence isn't just going to stand on empty threats. Our adversaries have to know we mean it when we say that we would launch and that our operators and our weapon systems are willing and able to carry out the task. Finally, none of this would be possible without communication. So you could have the largest nuclear arsenal in the world, but if you don't tell anyone about it, then it's not going to act as an effective deterrent force. So the US is constantly managing the messaging of our capabilities and ensuring we maintain our credibility to uphold strategic deterrence. And as you can kind of tell from the graphic, he's just staring him down with the hand on the holster there. So it's not just limited to verbal or written forms of communication. But ultimately, with that piece, what we're trying to convey is our adversaries have a choice. They can either escalate or back down. So they need to know very clearly that any potential benefit they might see of escalation would be far outweighed by the risk that we pose should they choose that course of action, and therefore restraint is their best option. So those are the three C's: capability, credibility, and communication, to help you remember how strategic deterrence works. So how then is it that 13 ends fit into that picture? Well, 13 ends are at the forefront of our nation's defense in the new era of great power competition. Our focus as a nation has shifted to countering our near peer competitors, namely China as the pacing challenge and Russia as a consistent threat. So 13 ends provide capability with our nonstop presence as a rapidly responsive weapon system. We provide credibility by developing leaders and operators experienced in strategic thinking. And what I mean by that is, at a certain point in your career, no matter what your AFSC is, you'll be required to think strategically and know how nuclear weapons fit into that strategic environment. So 13N is one of the few career fields where officers are raised with this strategic mindset basically from day one. So we're uniquely prepared to assume senior leadership roles, especially in this great power competition environment. And finally, we communicate our readiness through things like our highly visible ICBM flight test launches as just one example of that communication. So overall, as a 13N, you're directly contributing to the United States strategic deterrence and keeping our adversaries at bay. And that deterrence is also extended to our allies. So we're saying to our adversaries, no, 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 you can't touch them either, because the same threat would still apply. And with that, we're assuring our allies that we have their back. We don't want every country to feel like they need nuclear weapons to protect themselves. So if we can assure them we have them covered and they fall under our umbrella of strategic deterrence, we're preventing further nuclear proliferation. But here's a big takeaway from this slide. I know there's a lot on here, but every time our adversaries make decisions, they're thinking about us, 13 ends, and the strategic deterrence we provide. So this is all the why behind every single function of nuclear and missile operations. And this is the what. So this career field has two main mission sets. It's nuclear and missile operations. So I'll stop that and. When I was a cadet and even early in my time at the wing, I only ever thought about the missile operation side. And that part is mostly what people think about when 13N comes up. It's pulling alert at the three missile wings in your first crew tours, and they maybe even heard of the test launches out of Vandenberg. So that's the tip of the spear, being on alert, ready to launch so the president directed. But that's just one part of what this career field's about, because we have the nuclear operations part as well. There's quite a few things listed on this slide, so I'll just hit on the couple that I think warrant a little more explanation beyond what's written there. So nuclear command, control, and communications. That's how we disseminate our instructions from the president to the command centers and then on down to the operators to execute on. It also includes how we get those instructions out to the weapons to get them off the ground. So 13Ns are key to that entire process. And the other one I'll hit on is nuclear enterprise sustainment and development. And this is particularly important right now while we're operating our aging Minuteman III system, or weapon system, excuse me, and concurrently developing Sentinel. So even during that transition, we need to maintain our ICBM force as a continuously available option to the president. So sustainment and development is a big one right now. But the big takeaway from this slide is for you to know that pulling alert, which falls under the missile operations piece, is just the tip of the iceberg for the 13N career field. It's what you'll do when you first join, but there's so much more that we contribute as we progress throughout our careers. All right, this is the part everyone's always asking about, no matter what the career field is. What base can you go to as a 13N? So this slide shows all of the locations that have core 13N billets. So when you enter active duty, you'll head off to Vandenberg Space Force Base on the California coast to do your initial skills training at the schoolhouse. Then you'll go to a missile wing, which is one of those 3 gold stars on the map. And that's either Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana, Minot Air Force Base in Minot, North Dakota, and F.E. Warren in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Now, the current construct, we call it 3+3. So typically you would do 3 years at one of those bases and then another 3 years at one of the other bases. So during that time, you're actually considered deployed in place. So you won't be deployed out globally while performing those duties, or involuntarily deployed out while performing those duties. And with that, we also get a $300 a month assignment incentive pay. So you'll actually start out as the highest paid lieutenants in the Air Force. And doing the math there, over the 6 years, that racks up to an additional $21,600 in your pocket. All right, so after your crew time at the wing, it does start to open up a little bit more, as you can see on the map there, and you can end up at some of the other 13N hubs. So while that previous slide was all 13N core billets, you could still be selected to fill Air Force institutional requirements that could be filled by any AFSC. So you could go to school for professional military developmental education opportunities. You could be a ROTC or a USAFA instructor, as just a few examples. But all of the little blue dots that you can see on the map are where we currently have 13N stationed around the globe. Right now, that's in 35 of the 50 states, and DC, Puerto Rico, and then 8 different countries as well. So you truly can go anywhere with this career field. But that's all I had for my kind of introductory piece, and we will transition to the day in the life portion. So with that, I'll hand it off to Lieutenant Surratt. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about life as a crew dog out at Malmstrom Air Force Base.
Hey everybody, my name is First Lieutenant Richard Surratt. I'm a crew commander up in the 12th Missile Squadron at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Just a little background about me. I went to college at Oklahoma State, commissioned out of Detachment 670, went over to California for the schoolhouse, and then got shipped up to Malmstrom Air Force Base, and I'm currently in my first crew tour, which is essentially the first 3 years of your missileer career. So I just want to get into the schedule. So we're on a 7-day alert schedule, which is unique to both the Air Force and between the missile wings. So we post out to the missile complex from Wednesday to Wednesday. We'll go 24 hours down in the capsule, which is called pulling alert, and then 24 hours topside at the missile alert facility in rest status. So it's generally 4 days of alert with a rest day status in between each alert day. And then that following Wednesday, we'll return to base, and that's when your 4-day pass starts, and that will go from Thursday to Sunday. We'll get to that later. But that following Monday is when your training week starts. So people come in during the training week, which is Monday through Friday, and they'll come in 3 to 4 times this week to take care of like MPT rides, which is basically a simulated capsule where we practice doing stuff that we do out in the field. People are also coming in to work on their additional duties, which are programs that the squad has that the junior officers are running. So for example, I'm the weapons safety officer for the squad, but there's stuff like skid and gravel where you take new people out and teach them how to drive in the snow in a big old truck that's got drifting wheels around it, which is pretty fun. And we also have our booster club that puts on squad-sponsored events like ski trips, snowboarding trips, call sign nights, a bunch of fun stuff that the squad likes to do together. And then that next Wednesday, we'll post back out to the field, and then we'll do it all over again. So this gets me into the life outside of work kind of stuff. So with this job, you have a lot of free time between alert, the 4-day pass, and the training week. So now is a really good time to start your master's degree. Many people will finish their master's degree within their first crew tour. But there's plenty of other ways to enjoy your free time outside of work. So we have a really large officer community, and it's super tight. So most career fields, you'll go from commissioning to your tech school, and then right after your tech school, you'll be put in a flight commander position in charge of like 30 to 40 people. Whereas here, you kind of focus more on weapon system expertise, and your first real command responsibility isn't until you pin on crew commander, and you're just in charge of another lieutenant. So since that officer community is so tight, it's super easy to get 6 or 7 other LTs on a weekend or during that 4-day pass to go on a ski trip, float trip, hiking, hunting, and anything outdoorsy that you can think of, Montana has, and it's perfect for that. And if you don't like that outdoorsy stuff, that's when the 4-day pass comes into play, where I talked about earlier. So with this 4-day pass, you can go anywhere in the continental United States without taking leave. So it's a really good way to save your leave. And when I say anywhere, I mean anywhere. Like just in the past few months, I've been to Denver, Phoenix, St. Louis, Chicago, Seattle. So there are plenty of ways to enjoy your free time off. So I know the week-long alert schedule sounds very intimidating, but the job itself is extremely rewarding. You're one of the highest paid lieutenants in the Air Force, and you have tons of free time. So I really enjoyed the schedule and the job. I hope you find the stuff you're learning today intriguing, but I'll pass it off to Captain Clark.
Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Sean Clark, and I'm a flight commander in the 12th Missile Squadron. I'm from North Carolina originally and commissioned at Det 592 at UNC Charlotte. I've been at Malmstrom for my entire missile time and spent my first crew tour in the 10th Missile Squadron. I'm currently what we call our +3 or our second crew tour. Your +3 is really your time to broaden your skill set as a missileer. You'll start pulling less alerts, but you'll focus on using your knowledge and expertise to help support the mission better. Typically, you'll start this time as an instructor, where you can use your experience to teach our missileers how to be better at their job. From there, you become an evaluator. Here, you will evaluate crews and help improve our training as a whole. At some point, everybody has to move on from missile squadrons and move to a support shop. We have a lot of support shops, so I can't even name them all in this brief. But you can go to our targeting shop and support the targeting of our missiles. I went to our standing eval shop, actually, and got to help determine how we evaluate crews at the OG level. And if you're lucky, you might get to be a flight commander in a missile squadron again and mentor and lead the next generation of missileers. There's a lot of benefits to this job. This is the most important mission in the Air Force as a whole, and without a doubt, probably the military. Not a single mission or policy in this country can happen without the deterrence we provide and without us backing it up. This is a great job if you want to have an impact in the world as a whole. This is also a great career to get your master's. We have a lot of spare time on alert, and with tuition assistance, you can get your master's for free. And if you're an outdoors person, our bases are at some of the best locations for you. At Malmstrom, we're a short drive from Glacier and Yellowstone National Park. And if you're a hunter like me, Montana has some of the best hunting in the world. And in the winter, there's amazing skiing. 1/3 of Montana is public land, so there's no shortage of places to go if you come here. And with that, I'll pass it off to Demo.
Hey everyone, I'm Captain Kinsey Richmond. I go by Demo. I'm currently stationed up at Minot Air Force Base in Minot, North Dakota. I graduated from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Illinois, so I also come from ROTC Detachment 205. And after initial skills training and being chosen for 13N, I served 3 years up at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana in the 490th Missile Squadron. And as alluded to earlier, the +3 assignment, I PCS'd over to Minot Air Force Base, where I've been since the PCS, to be a Minuteman III instructor. And then from there, you get to kind of choose your path in your 13N career of what you want to do. And I chose to stay more the instructor path and go on to be something called a weapons officer. And what a weapons officer is essentially an expert instructor and problem solver for the unit. And in order to do that, you have to be an instructor for a year and then go off to and that is at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada. The course itself is about 5.5 months, and it's a graduate level course. And imagine about 12 credit hours worth of curriculum to go through and complete. At weapons school, you learn to solve tactical problems for the Minuteman III weapon system, as well as the 13N community, and then ultimately be an advisor for your unit commander. But while at school, you also learn to translate those problem sets, and also the solutions to other members of the Air Force community, and be able to then translate the needs of your unit up to the Air Force level at large. And so you learn a lot of unique skills at weapons school, and then you are expected to come back to the missile wing and be the lead instructor and problem solver for your unit. So when you get back to the missile wing,
We lost your audio there, Demo. All right, I'm going to press to the next slide, and then we'll let Demo finish up at the end.
All right, thank you so much, Val. Yeah, thank you so much, Val. And Thanks for the portion that we did get through of demo. I really enjoyed my time at the wing and my experiences with my weapons officers as well. So hopefully we get to catch up a little bit with her at the end and allow her to expand upon some of those opportunities that she had. So I am Captain Christy Fain. And speaking of the wing, I just recently moved from the wing to the 532nd Training Squadron after spending my crew time at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I currently serve as an instructor at our schoolhouse on the Central California coast at Vandenberg Space Force Base. All currently serving 13Ns have started their careers here. I enjoyed my time as a new lieutenant here at the schoolhouse, arriving many moons ago, with my husband and daughter in tow. We've added 2 more littles to our family during my 6 years at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and I'm happy to say we have 1 more addition expected in the coming months. Serving in a deployed-in-place fashion as my family grows has been great. As an instructor, the schoolhouse affords me similar opportunities. I get to spend my days watching members of the world's greatest Air Force go from little to no knowledge regarding nuclear missile operations to launching in the simulators and graduation in roughly 6 months' time. It is truly mind-blowing the amount of student growth that occurs during training. Upon arrival here, students are placed into a team with their peers and assigned a group of instructors. Students attend classroom sessions learning about the nuclear enterprise and the technical aspects of operation from their designated instructors, like myself, using methods effective for various learning styles. Students will then take the knowledge gained and apply it through trainer rides in the simulators. Our simulators look and act nearly identical to a nuclear launch control center. Students and instructors continue through training as a supportive unit, forming lasting bonds. While here, I also have the opportunity to earn a Master Instructor designation, which translates to a teaching credential in some states. Each day I spend as an instructor at the 532nd affords me the opportunity to teach students how to use the equipment they'll interact with in their future as a 13N, setting them up for success at the wings. The reward for doing so is immeasurable. Nuclear deterrence is so important to our nation, and I get to contribute by generating strong, confident, knowledgeable operators to accomplish the mission. Outside of work hours, members of the 532nd Training Squadron get to enjoy the local area. And I could chat all day regarding the area and life here at Vandenberg Space Force Base, but there's another mission set on this base as well. So without stealing too much talk about the California beaches, I'll now pass it off to Captain Annie Sisk.
Thanks, Christy. Hi, everyone. I'm Captain Annie Sisk, and I'm an ICBM test manager here at Vandenberg, just down the street from the schoolhouse. I'm from Maryland originally and commissioned out of Det 330 at the University of Maryland. Before this assignment, I did my crew time at Malmstrom and Minot. So my unit is responsible for all ICBM testing. We've got 2 main types. First, we test new upgrades, equipment, or software before it's fielded to make sure it's ready for the warfighter. We design the tests and manage the projects as a whole, learning a ton about acquisitions, data analysis, and evaluation along the way. It's actually an acquisition certified job, which is a great opportunity to get that experience without being a career acquisitions officer. Our other tests look at weapon system effectiveness, proving to the president, our allies, and our adversaries that Minuteman III is accurate and reliable. So we actually test the launchers separately from the missiles. To test the launchers, we head up to the missile wings and configure them in a way that we can send real commands through the system without any risk of accidental launch. To test the missiles themselves, one is randomly selected and delivered to us with the nuclear material removed. Then we add test equipment and work hand in hand with Space Force here at Vandenberg to deconflict our launch with satellite orbits, aircraft, and space debris. The missile travels 4,200 miles through space, and we gather telemetry data the whole way, which allows us to demonstrate the system's effectiveness and identify and correct any issues that may arise to ensure its continued capability. Like Val said earlier, test launches are very visible events. One of the things that I love most about my job is that at the captain level, we are trusted to represent the Air Force. Last launch, one of my coworkers briefed senior South Korean military and defense leaders when they came out to observe a launch for the first time ever. This visit paired with U.S. submarines and strategic bombers landing on the peninsula, ultimately demonstrating U.S. commitment to extended deterrence in South Korea. We've had the opportunity for 4-star generals, the chief of staff, and political leaders to visit our unit to learn about the mission, and as CGOs, we are enabled to brief them as weapon system and testing experts. I have a political science degree, so this has really challenged me to learn about the physics and engineering behind Minuteman III. It is truly such a cool assignment, and I know it's a special skill set that'll serve me for the rest of my career. Next, I'll pass it off to Captain Eric Maloney from a unit we love to work with and depend on for our test missions, the 625th Strategic Operations Squadron.
Thanks, Annie, and thank you everyone for attending this awesome opportunity to learn about the 13N career field. I am Captain Eric Maloney, and I'm an ALCS Intel Officer and Strike Planner with the 625th STAS Strategic Operations Squadron, or 625th STAS for short. I attended Air Force ROTC at Detachment 780 at South Dakota State University, and then quickly transitioned to training at Vandenberg before headed to Malmstrom and Minot for my crew tours. Now I'm currently at Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska, in the 625th STAS, where I have the very unique opportunity to fly on the Navy E-6B as a 13N to conduct survival command center duties for United States Strategic Command. Not only is it unique to fly as a 13N, but on the battle staff working for U.S. STRATCOM, I am trained as an intelligence officer and a strike planner, meaning the commander of U.S. STRATCOM has given me the authority to alter a nuclear war plan if needed. Another huge benefit I've gained from this job is that I get to work with Navy, Army, and Marine Corps personnel from all different career fields to gain that joint warfighting perspective outside of what I've just learned in the Air Force. In addition to that joint perspective, I've gained a vast strategic perspective flying with general and flag officers where I get to advise them and pick their brain on officership and strategic matters on a more personal level. All right, on to alert life. The operations tempo is a little different than the missile wings, where my alerts are also 1 week long, but they're roughly every 4 to 8 weeks. While on alert, I deploy to different bases around the country with the Navy air crew and 9 additional battle staff members to include that general officer, and fly roughly every other day. Flights can range from 2 to 12 hours long, but typically flights are about 5 hours where we train on our duties to ultimately be a platform that is capable of advising the president through a nuclear war. It's very dynamic, and oftentimes you find yourself as the only 13 on the team. I absolutely love going on alert because it's not the typical 9 to 5 where I'm stuck behind a desk. For instance, my last alert, I had a couple ground days where I played golf, watched some NFL games, and handily beat a 1-star in several games of spades. Last but not least, I get to operate a weapon system that is capable of launching all of our nation's ICBMs from 30,000 feet. In addition to my battle staff duties, I am the crew commander of the Airborne Launch Control System, or ALCS for short. As operators, we are the only survivable secondary launch platform for the nation in our ICBMs. I operate this while on alert, but I also get to work with my squadron test and analysis team in conjunction with the missile wings and the 576 test squadron to verify that system is always working properly. I could talk all day and preach the gospel because I love this job so much, but I'm eager to hear your questions. So before that, over to you, Fire.
All right, thanks, Eric. Hey, everybody. My name is Cameron Cantor. My call sign is Fire. I commissioned out of the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota from ROTC Detachment 410, and I got a business law degree there. After training at Vandenberg, went back up north. I spent 3 years at Minot, 5 years at Malmstrom, went to the weapons school, and then I came down here to Air Force Global Strike Command, our major command, where I was an intern last year, and now I'm a branch chief in our advanced programs office. About halfway through my career now, and the 13N career field has let me see a lot of the nation and some of the world, and I've had tons of schooling and educational opportunities that have been funded by the 13N career field. One of the highlights of my career on the bottom of my slide there, I think I'm one of the only people that can claim that I've not only operated Minuteman III, but I've driven a ballistic nuclear missile submarine and also flown the B-52. But now I'm the primary action officer here at Global Strike for the classified programs that are in and around nuclear weapons and Sentinel specifically. So Sentinel, its designation is on the slide, LGM-35A. It's our new ICBM. One of the members of the House Armed Services Committee was quoted saying that Sentinel is everyone's program. It's a whole government effort, and it takes the whole nation to get behind it. Sentinel is literally going to be bigger, faster, and stronger than Minuteman III, and it's 100% needed to compete and win in the great power competition that we talked about earlier. And we need every single skill set to help the team. Whether your degree background is in business like me, or your physics, math, engineering, liberal arts, all those skill sets and mindsets are needed to further Sentinel and make sure that it's as good as we need it to be. The exciting thing for all of you is that Sentinel is going to be fielded in the 2030s. So we're going to hand you all the keys to this brand new weapon system. Still going to have the new car smell on it, which is really exciting. And then one final plug for our career field. Our officer assignment team was here at Barksdale in Louisiana last week, and they get to see people from every career field in the Air Force. They said that 13Ns are unique because we have so many friends everywhere that we go. We're a very small, tight-knit family that's forged in fire. So with that, I'll hand it back to Val for the conclusion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fire, and everybody else that got to share their experiences today. It really helps out a lot. So thank you so much. Before I dive into this slide, a demo, if we have you up, do you want to go back over the end of your slide there?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. And I apologize for disconnecting there. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit more on the weapons officer community. Really, the only thing I had to add is, yeah, you're expected to come back to the missile wing for a couple of years, but then really from there, your horizons extend, and you can go off back to Nellis Air Force Base and become an instructor, where you'll teach the next weapons officers. You can go out to the Vandenberg Space Force Base and help develop new curriculum, see how it needs to change if needed. And also be part of the test and evaluation group that's there, or at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. Maybe even go off and work policy in the Washington, D.C. area. But really, you will use the same skills no matter where you're at, and ultimately be an instructor and problem solver no matter where you go. It doesn't really limit you to how your career ends or progresses. It just gives you a different skill set to utilize throughout your career. But that's really all I had to add, and I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. So hopefully to all the cadets tuning in live or later, this gives you a little bit more understanding about what the 13N AFSC is all about. There are additional chances to learn even more about the 13N career field and the nuclear enterprise as a whole. So if you're interested, the Air Force Global Strike Command or the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory summer internship programs are perfectly suited for a prospective 13N, so you can get an inside look at the nuclear mission. And then if you haven't gone on your Ops Air Force trip yet, and you do get a choice in where you go, consider choosing one of those bases listed because they'll have a 13N mission for you to check out. And lastly, you can ask your cadre about enrolling in the Air Force Global Strike Command Strategic Deterrence Basic Course. And that's just a 2-day online course that gives you a more in-depth understanding on strategic deterrence, which I was just barely able to scratch the surface of today. So check that out if you're interested. And again, on this slide is where you'll see our contact information at the bottom. So if there's anything you don't get to ask during the Q&A, or you're tuning in later, or it's a more personal question that doesn't apply to a whole group of people, then please reach out to us there. And then if you have a question that's for a specific briefer, you can still email us there, and we'll get that over to the correct person and get you in touch. So this is the slide I will leave up during Q&A. It's just our snapshots from the AFSC's brochure. So it has most of the info that we covered today, maybe a few bonus points in there as well. So feel free to glance over that while I have it up, and maybe it'll generate additional questions or jog your memory on something you wanted to ask. But otherwise, we'll transition into Q&A. I'll check the chat. Ah, Okay, we've got our first question. So how competitive is Looking Glass or airborne ops? That I think is the perfect question for Captain Maloney.
Yeah, I got it. All right, so getting to the STOS, I'd say it's no more competitive than any of the other jobs. Some of the things you can do will be pretty much what any commander will tell you is just do really well at the missile wing, have a great attitude. There's a variety of performers that come to the STOS specifically to be operating the weapon system and being, we call ourselves ALCs. But there's actually a second opportunity to fly if you want to, and that's kind of on the just STRATCOM side itself. So we're two different units. Technically, we fly with STRATCOM, but if you don't necessarily make it to the ALCS route, you can actually go the STRATCOM Looking Glass route to try to pick up a couple other positions that fly on the aircraft, to include logistics officer, strike advisor, and mission commander. So can't really say how competitive it is, but I will say if you do well, have a great attitude, are a team player, you'll have an opportunity to come to the STOS.
Thank you. We've got a raised hand. You can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Isla Lester from Det 905 Washington State University. Can you guys hear me okay?
Coming in loud and clear.
Okay. I was just wondering, what would you guys consider the hardest part of this career field?
So I'll kick it off with my thoughts. I mean, it's going to vary person to person, right? Like I think it depends on a lot of factors, and most of them are personal. So, as a flight commander, I saw some people struggle with that week-long alert structure, and I think everybody that briefed on the line today also saw a different structure, and people struggled with that as well. So sometimes, being away from home for that week at a time can be tough, especially on like young families. But then again, we had Captain Fain mention, that it had been great for her family. So it really just depends person to person. Some people also struggle with the technical aspect, and the nitty gritty of the job, and some of its functions are difficult for them to learn, whether in training or even once they make it up to the wing. So I would say the schedule would be my first thought. If anyone else wants to jump in and share their perspective.
Hey, this is First Lieutenant Richard Surratt. So I'm the crew commander, so I'm kind of the crew dog. I'm the one here that's kind of pulling alert all the time. So for me, it is like what Val said. It's kind of just the nitty gritty stuff. Like pulling alert, it kind of sucks sometimes, but you kind of get through it. You can find ways to entertain yourself. But yes, I would think the nitty gritty and the technical aspects of learning all about the missiles and all that, that would be probably the most difficult part of the job.
This is Lieutenant Colonel Thompson at USAFA. One thing to keep in mind, though, too, that is sort of temporary, just at the beginning of your career. And having that perspective, now been through 4 other assignments, you sort of, hey, each assignment has its sort of challenges based on learning a new system, long hours, shift work, no shift work, etc. So that's all temporary in the first 3+3, or depending what you do early on. So you hear that, or I hear that a lot. It's like, oh, the schedule's horrible. I went through 72-hour alerts to 24-hour alerts, crazy schedules, just driving in and out all the time, to 48-hour alerts. Now COVID sort of drove week-long alerts. So things change, and that's all temporary. But if you're looking at it from a career perspective, it's actually a pretty quick run when you look back at it.
That's a great point, sir. I just left the missile wing 2 months ago, and every day I'm thinking, holy cow, that was 6 years already. It does go by fast. any other briefers wanted to add on to that, or we can move on to the next question. Okay, nothing heard there. So we got another question from, it looks like Cadet Hartley. So could you talk a little bit more about initial training at Vandenberg? Any tips or advice on how to be successful? Captain Fain, do you have some tips as a current instructor out there at Vandenberg?
This is Captain Fain. So absolutely, that is a phenomenal question for anyone who's interested in going into any career field is what does that initial training look like? So for 13Ns, our initial training coming out here to Vandenberg, we typically, you'll get out here, you'll have a little bit of time to kind of settle in prior to the start of class. Because it is traditionally around that 6-month mark, folks do PCS into us versus where some other career fields will have like a TDY instead. So it'll be a PCS out here to Vandenberg, kind of get stuff settled, right? Entering active duty, all that fun stuff. And then entering into a class. So as I kind of previously stated, it's as a group. So those who are arriving at the same time will be placed in those kind of groups together. And then they start with a handful of classroom days, and those continue throughout the entirety of the 6 months, intermixed with ride days. Okay, so a classroom day is going to be where we come in, and that could be dependent as far as the timing regarding what is being taught during that block, what is being taught during that time frame, as far as how many hours are needed. That can be dependent upon the students in the class and the instructors and just the material that is required to be learned for that period of time. So there is some flexibility regarding those classroom days. Sometimes you might have a day that goes all day, and sometimes, and by all day, I mean the entirety of the duty day. And then sometimes you have days that are going to be fairly short, and you can get through the material. Everyone understands it. We're great. We're good to go. And we can have those opportunities to add in some of those other things that we want to develop ourselves as officers. So for example, like you're going to get PT time throughout those days, just to ensure that we are capitalizing on all of the opportunities that we have here for you at the schoolhouse and making sure that we're developing the best instructors that we can. So those are the classroom days. We also have our ride days. So we'll have 36 rides. And when I say rides, I'm talking about a trainer ride. So we refer to that terminology specifying the times when you are in the simulator applying that classroom knowledge and going through the checklists and interacting with the console in ensuring that we know how to accomplish all those tasks, get that targeting out to that LF, out to that sortie, things of that nature. Those ride days, students are expected traditionally to just be in for the amount of time that it takes to complete the ride. So that's like a few hours. We have some mission planning before, some debrief after. So those are typically looking a little more around a half day. Caveats to that would be if there's a particular block of instruction that maybe we need a little extra assistance with. We may utilize the entirety of the duty day for those ride days if we need to kind of bolster up some of the material. As far as any tips or advice on how to be successful at the initial skills training here at Vandenberg, it's similar to the way that you learn anything else. So first of all, asking questions and taking responsibility for yourself and your training. We have tests and progress checks that we can utilize to determine if our students are understanding the material. However, if there's something that's fuzzy or something that maybe isn't super solidified, we definitely ask that you take that opportunity to recognize your ability as an officer in the United States Air Force to request that additional information in whatever pieces maybe just aren't quite clicking. So that's one tip I have, as well as ensuring that you always put forth your best effort. And I think our folks that come here and put forth their best effort, we absolutely see them. We see them succeed. We see them excel. And we see them take charge and have done absolutely amazing things throughout their careers. And with that, I will allow anyone else who maybe wants to add anything in regards to remembering their time here at the schoolhouse or any additions that anyone has for us.
That was awesome. Thanks, Christy. Oh, I see a raised hand. I don't know where it's coming from yet. Give me 1 second. Okay. Jack Bowman, you can go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, can hear you great.
All right, so I'm Cadet Bowman from Det 875 at Virginia Tech, and I had two questions. So my first is, does coming in as someone who's not a STEM major and doesn't really study like the actual science of how nuclear weapons work, will that affect you at all during the schoolhouse? And my second question is, when you're pulling alerts, does it ever get boring or repetitive?
Okay, I'll go. So, oh, sorry, we still going? Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So for your first question on STEM major, so I actually was a behavioral science major, and then my master's is in psych. So I am not a technical person at all. I would say it was intimidating to come in and see all the, communications equipment, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? But we just need to know how to use the equipment. We don't have to be the experts on how to fix it or how the magic of communications works. We just have to be able to interact with that equipment. So it never held me back. I see someone had a physical education major and also is probably doing just fine. So no, STEM background is not at all required to be a great missileer. And our our deputy branch chief, Colonel Stump, was a public relations major, so it will not hold you back. So um, as far as it getting boring on alert, yeah, that'll happen. Lieutenant Surratt, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So on alert, it just kind of depends. Sometimes you're busy down there, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you'll go down with your crew partner who you're really good friends with. Sometimes it's a news person. But usually for me, like I have a lot of fun pulling alert. Like we watch movies, we'll be on Netflix chilling the whole time. We'll have HBO Max pulled up. Like some people were working on their masters. Like you find ways to keep yourself entertained, keep yourself busy. So personally, I don't think it's boring, but I go out with people I like all the time, so I have fun with them all the time. So I want to say no, but other people have other opinions.
And I don't want to steal your thunder, Rich, but could you just talk about like the way the day is split up into shifts typically?
Yeah, so generally you'll get downstairs, we'll do changeover with the other crew around 10 a.m., and then you'll both be awake from around 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. doing your checklist, like inspections and all that, finishing over your changeover checklist and all that. And then once 2 p.m. hits, like generally you're done with all your inspections and done finishing up like your kind of your preparatory actions. And so generally that's when the deputy, usually on nights, hate to say for the new people, you're usually going to start on nights. You'll get some days shifts thrown in, but usually you'll be on nights. You'll go to sleep around 2 p.m. You'll wake up around 10 p.m. and that's when you take over your shift. You'll be on alert from 10 p.m. till about 6 a.m. And then that's when you wake your commander up and you'll take what's called the deputy nap, which is essential, that like 3 hours of sleep you get. And then the 10 a.m. the next day, the other crew would come down and change you over and you'll go back topside. And then topside, you get to do basically whatever you want. You're at the missile alert facility, but the MAF, that's what it's called. The MAF has itself like a gym. It's got like a big living space. There's a chef there that's cooking us meals. There's a giant TV, like you can sit there and watch movies with the cops and stuff like that. Like there's still plenty of ways to keep yourself busy, even though you're isolated downstairs or upstairs.
Okay, I see a hand from Colonel Mazak. Did you have something to add there, sir? Or a question? Got nothing. I can hear anything if you are trying to speak, sir. Okay, standing by there. While he's typing that, I thought I saw Fire. You had your hand up at some point, and Colonel Millen, I got you as well.
I was just going to say that, so to top off the alert thing, not having pulled alert now in a few years, having moved away, I really miss it. In the moment, you don't really understand how good you have it on alert. But yeah, I got my master's degree down there too, and then lots of movie time and stuff like that. I actually preferred night shift because it was quieter. So it's kind of like the biggest struggles as a missileer, or what the hardest parts are, where it's very personality dependent, but you get used to it and you learn how to make the best of yourself and have fun out there.
Awesome. I have a question from Ian. It says training is 4 months at Vandenberg. Captain Fain, I'm not sure exactly if it's changed since I've been there. So what's the current timeline on the training?
Yeah, thanks, Val. And thanks for that question. So training right now is looking a little closer to around 6 months is about what it tends to be recently. And then in addition to the previous question regarding kind of not being a STEM major, we see so many people here absolutely excel without having a STEM major, and washback so few and far between are also capable of being a STEM major. So it kind of varies for each person how well they do here at the schoolhouse, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily tied to any one particular major. We focus primarily on understanding checklists rather than like rote memorization of how wires are connected, if that makes sense. So great questions, y'all.
And if I could add a little bit as a crew dog to the training thing, when I was down at Vandenberg, like you're all in a class together with a bunch of 20-some-year-olds. You all get very close. Like you're down in Southern California with a good amount of free time and expendable income. Like that is a really good time to be down there. And what you do down there, it's like fun to learn stuff, but outside of work down there as well, a lot of fun stuff to do.
Awesome. So from Colonel Mazak there, one thing that has not been highlighted that helps with the potential boredom and success in training is that both in training and at the wing, you have a crew partner that makes the job so much better. So I just wanted to verbalize that in case anyone is over the phone. Yeah, that is huge. Yeah, I've got one more hand. I can't see it. Okay, Colonel Davidson, I see your hand. I will take Isla here. Isla, go ahead. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Thank you. A lot of people think it's Isla. So for in regard to training again, I know the new Sentinel is being introduced. Does that mean that it's going to kind of be a simultaneous training between both the Sentinel and then the Minuteman, or is it primarily the Minuteman? I'm not too sure what training is going to look like.
So at the moment, neither are we. We're still very much in just completely Minuteman 3 ops, and kind of keeping it at that for right now, and until we have a better look at how Sentinel's going to be fielded. That's when we'll have more answers on what training will look like. And in our office where we're thinking about where to place people all the time, that's going to be huge for us. But right now we still just have a lot of question marks and not too many answers for you on that one. Colonel Sump, did I get that right? I'll take silence as comfort. Oh, never mind.
Sorry, Val. I was double muted. Yeah, you got that right. So right now we don't really have an understanding of how training is going to operate simultaneously. We do know that it will operate simultaneously as we stand Sentinel up and as we sunset Minuteman eventually. But that's a little ways off. We still have some some runway before we get there. So apologize, we don't have better answers for you right now for that, but it is something we're thinking about, and we will see in the years to come.
Awesome. Colonel Davidson, I saw your hand. Good to hear from you, sir.
Hey Val, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, you're coming in great.
Awesome. Hey, sorry, not to go back too much, but on the question about boredom out and alert, I came back from alert yesterday. I actually work nights as well, and uh, I've I don't think I've ever met a crew member that was like, I'm bored on alert. There's a lot of stuff to do out there in the capsule. You can, do professional studying stuff, depending on what is going on in the field. I know I was pretty busy last night. We did multiple rounds of targeting and had a bunch of other stuff going on. So I was super busy with that. And then there's a computer downstairs so you can study. There's also TV, DVDs, all that stuff. So I think honestly, at least when I was on crew, like the bigger issue I had was like boredom when like I wasn't at work, if that makes sense. But I don't know. Hopefully that helped assuage somebody's fears.
Thanks, sir. Okay, if I missed someone's hand at any point, because it doesn't stay up indefinitely, unfortunately, uh, you can feel free to chime in. Oh, okay. Robert Cooper, I see you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Cadet Robert Kruger from Detachment 004, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. My question is, over at Vandenberg, there is the 576 Flight Test Squadron. Is there anybody over here that can elaborate about what that unit does?
All right, Captain Sisk, this is your time.
That's me. That's my team. I realized we never said the 576. So that's the unit that I'm at, talking about ICBM test. So we, as a whole, we are doing all of the ICBM testing for Minuteman 3. That's going to be doing our test launches, sending them off the coast. That's going to be going up north and making sure the launchers work, and then all the software, all the new upgrades. Before they get to the warfighter, we're making sure that they are good to go, effective, and suitable. It is a really, really awesome mission. It's so cool to spend 6 years learning about this weapon system and then to come out here and see one launch. Awesome. And it's a pretty tight team, kind of 20 officers is what we're around. And looking at everyone that I work with, it is a really, really fun team to be on. Everyone is smart and capable and loves this mission because it's so exciting to really get in the nuts and bolts of it and figure out how does the weapon system work, because I need to know that to know how to test it.
Hello? All right. That answer your question there, or do you have more specific questions?
I would love to nerd out about tests. So if anything more specific, hit me with it. And then, like they said, they can get you in contact with us.
Awesome. Any other questions? We're coming up on an hour here. Not to deter you from asking the question, but. Okay, for the 13N Strategic Deterrence PhD program, are there only specific degrees which are accepted? I'm pretty sure it is a specific degree. Colonel Sump, could you speak to that one for me?
Sure thing. Yeah, that program is degree agnostic. You can sign up for that course regardless of your degree. Good question.
Sorry, sir, we're talking the Strategic Deterrence PhD program. That's my fault.
Oh, okay, I completely misunderstood that. Apologize. No, we'll consider any degree for the Strategic Deterrence PhD program. It's going to depend on the educational opportunity you're seeking and the institution that you're looking to go to. All those things are considered when we select candidates for that program. So you can be any major and apply for that PhD program.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and then how long does a newly commissioned second lieutenant wait to attend IQT compared to other AFSCs? So I'm not sure if your question's getting at like EAD times, which I don't think we have much control over. But if you're talking like showing up to your unit first and then going to your IQT, there's no downtime. You'll go straight as a PCS straight to Vandenberg before you go to your unit.
Now, I don't know that question's referring to. In the past, I was out at Vandenberg for 4 years. We used to have 6 to 8 month backlogs, especially when Air Force Academy graduates came. We had a large group. For the most part, at least recent, didn't link up with Lieutenant Colonel Armaza too much, but it's fairly quick, usually a month or two before arriving at Vandenberg and starting IQT. If that ties more to the question or not. Over.
So on that note, there are a few things that you need before you can enter active duty as a 13N. So and they can impact when you can show up to Vandenberg. So one of them being your top secret security clearance, one of them being your mod physical, and one being your PRP certification. So depending on your commissioning source and the length of time those processes take for individual cadets, it can vary pretty widely from cadet to cadet. So it could be 6 to 8 months, or it could be almost immediately.
So that actually brought up a great point on PRP and what that is. So that stands for Personnel Reliability Program. And the purpose of that program is to make sure that, you know, the folks that we have working with and around nuclear weapons are reliable and stable enough to do those duties without, you know, accepting additional risk. So it is an initial kind of certification process, and then you have, and there is a specific phrase, continuous monitoring or something along those lines. If I don't have the exact verbiage, but it's something that you constantly touch base with your certifying official, which is usually your squadron commander, so that they know that the people they're sending out to alert are good to do those duties day to day. Okay, another question from Isla. How likely will we get to work directly with enlisted personnel? I understand it's an officer heavy career field. So you're correct. It is all officers in 13N. So the only enlisted folks you'll really interact with are the facility managers who post out to the missile alert facility with you, whose job is to take care of that facility. So I didn't, you know, supervise any enlisted folks until I was a flight commander at my 5-year mark. And even then it was, I think I had 1 staff sergeant, 3 techs, and 1 master sergeant. So it is very different. And I think Lieutenant Surratt said this, you know, we're focused more on operating the weapon system and becoming weapon system experts at first. And then kind of later on is when we'll get the leadership opportunities. Colonel Davidson, do you have something to add on that one?
Hey, sorry, Val. Yeah, so to work directly with enlisted personnel, so that like Captain Flores kind of alluded to, you don't really supervise a lot of enlisted personnel, but um, out at a missile alert facility when you're on alert, there's roughly 6 to 12 people out there that are topside. They're pretty much all university enlisted. There might be one other officer out there total. And then the maintenance teams you work with day to day that are out there maintaining, working on your sites are also all enlisted. So you don't have a lot of supervisory opportunities, but you do have a lot of leadership opportunities and chances to discuss and interact with enlisted personnel. Topside of the mast, if you're out there for a week-long alert, you have cops, so security forces members, as well as your facility manager, and they may have a variety of different AFSC backgrounds. And you may have some maintenance members that come through as well, and then you will have a services troop as well out there. So you do get to see them and interact with them and talk to them a lot. And throughout my career, I think it's been one of the things that I've seen is that if you want to have the opportunity to go out and interface those functions and those members, there are multiple venues across the base where you can do that. Something that I heard a lot of officers allude to that are in other AFSCs is, if like you're a maintenance officer, you may be the only officer in a flight of 40 or 50 people. So it's kind of one of those, heavy is the head that wears the crown, because you're the only officer and you might have a squadron commander and a DO, and that's it in your unit that are officers. Everybody else is enlisted. And because of, frat concerns and stuff like that, it's hard to kind of have a robust friends group sometimes in those groups. Whereas a lot of missileers you hear talking to folks say, oh yeah, like I've got like 80 friends at this wing because we all went through Vandenberg and we've all hung out up here and everything like that. So I don't know if that's what you're looking to in terms of interaction or supervision, but I guess that's kind of the perspective I've gotten over a couple of years. Hopefully that's helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Val, can I add to that? Captain Flores, correction. Can I add to that regarding involvement with enlisted members and interactions with them? So while, yes, we don't necessarily supervise them directly, you are the officer that is in control of that MAF at that time when you're posted out there. So during those topside portions of alert, you have that opportunity to sit in your room and work on your hobbies and work on yourself. And if you're an introverted person, you have that ability to recharge. However, if you do want that opportunity to mentor and to discuss with enlisted members, you can go out into the lounge, as Lieutenant Surratt said, that there's a TV and a couch and some recliners and a chef, and you can have that opportunity to interact with those enlisted members. So for example, my first 2-week alert during COVID, which I actually went out with Captain Flores, she and I were out there together. And when I got back, my squadron commander said, "Oh, well, how was it?" And I said, "Sir, I want to have every single one of them at my house for Thanksgiving dinner," because we were able to discuss and have that opportunity to spend time with one another, just sitting in the lounge, sitting on the couch and learning about each other and learning about our lives and how we can interact and how we can help each other. And I've learned so much from the enlisted members that I've been able to interact with out in the field. And hopefully I've been able to provide some mentorship opportunities to them as well.
That was such a great alert. We had the best MAF team as a whole. It was really awesome. Oh yeah, missile alert facility. Thanks, sir. I'm so used to saying MAF. Okay. Major McDonald, I don't know, do we have a time limit? Because I don't want to stop anyone from asking questions, but if we have to stop, then I'm just not sure if we have a hard cutoff.
No, ma'am. You are, as long as y'all are good to go, please continue and answer questions as the audience asks.
Awesome. Thank you. Ooh, great question. So how do you manage your stress while on alert? Again, for the first one, I'll pass that to Lieutenant Surratt, who's currently living that life.
Yes. So personally, I don't get super stressed down there. I like to think it's a very relaxing job. Like there's a lot of stuff happening at one time sometimes, but a lot of the times there's nothing at all happening. So I wouldn't really call the job super stressful. At times it can be stressful, but so can every other job. So managing your stress can kind of go like hand in hand with managing your stress like any other time in your life. It's not really specific to alert. It's just how you manage stress personally.
And I will say, like, I get some of the most quality alone time out in the field, whether that's, topside or in the capsule. So besides that first chunk of time between like 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. where You have the changeover crew there, and your crew partner and yourself are both awake. Most of that 24 hours is to yourself, whether you're back, behind the curtain in the bed there, or sitting at the console with your thoughts. So there's plenty of time. I've done a lot of journaling. I've had a few good bed mod cry sessions, but for the most part, you have every opportunity to take the time that you need. And then back to that PRP conversation, if your stress is to a point where you're concerned about your ability to focus on alert, you can communicate that with your leadership and take a knee as you need. Yeah, I'll hold for just another minute or so if I don't see any more raised hands or questions pop up in the chat. It's like I said, this is the part we wanted to get to, is answering the questions. So this has been really great. Thank you so far to everyone who has asked a question. It made this feel even more fulfilling. So I appreciate you all. Okay, so was 13 in your top pick on your dream sheet? Yeah, I'll give everyone a chance to speak on this one, but for me it was. I briefly alluded to that in my first kind of intro slide. I really wanted to do ops, but I cannot see, so I could not be a pilot. And 13 in was pitched to me, I guess, at like a career day event at the academy. And talking to that missileer there that day really sold me on it as a way to be at the tip of the spear and have an impact. So it was number one for me. But I know a lot of people who didn't have it on their sheet at all and are still super happy. The grass is always greener on the other side, but I don't always feel that way with 13 in. I meet mostly satisfied and happy 13ns who are happy with the way their life turned out, even though it wasn't what they chose. But everyone's going to have a different experience on that. So any other missileers on the line want to add to that? Okay, go ahead, fire.
So it was not number one. It was actually the last one with when space and missiles was still a thing right before we shredded out. But now, happy that I have it. And I study business law, so I was going to do like my 4 years. I wanted to be acquisitions or contracting, and then get out and make oodles of money. But got missiles, love it. Going to stay in until the Air Force kicks me out.
Captain Clark.
So it was my first choice, actually. At the time they were offering scholarship for it, and it sounded like a really cool job, and kind of in the same vein as Captain Flores. Like, I knew I wanted to be ops, and talking to other missileers, I could tell like how important it was. And the other piece of was I looked at all like where these three bases are located, and they all sounded like really cool places to be. And also being at Vandenberg for training before that is not a bad thing either. It's a pretty sweet deal. But like looking back on it, I can't see myself picking any other career field than the one I've chose.
Awesome. Captain Maloney.
I just wanted to add on, it actually wasn't even on my sheet. Missiles picked me. I was initially a little upset, but going on 10 years now, couldn't be more happier with where I am, and the career field is just so awesome. I actually have a unique perspective too. I have two other brothers in the Air Force. One's a personnel officer and one's a contracting officer. So I had to compare, firsthand what their lives are like compared to mine. And we keep stressing it enough in this, or we keep bringing it up in this meeting, but it can't be stressed enough. Like the amount of people that you get to work with and come across, like over 3 years at a missile wing, I mean, you're looking at 150 to 200 CGOs that you're coming in contact with, and then over 6 years, it's probably double that. So I know people all around the nation, whether it's for work or pleasure, just traveling around the world. I link up with people I've known for 8, 10 years, so it's awesome. I love it.
Thanks. Captain Sisk?
Thanks, Val. Yeah, I didn't know really that I was eligible. I think at the time the officer designation document said you needed a STEM degree. So I hadn't really thought about it until I was being told I was going to be a 13N. And then coming from East Coast, city, suburban kid, looking at the map of the missile bases, I had no idea what to expect from life up there. And I left my crew time with a Zillow alert for some property in North Dakota or in Montana. Just absolutely fell in love with that part of the country, wide open spaces, having some peace and quiet. And I still love cities. I still love to be in a suburb. I'm so happy to be here in California, but really surprised myself with how much I fell in love with life up there.
Any other missileers want to chime in? I mean, I think we've got quite a few on here, so any other non-vols that fell in love? All right, it was all our number one choice then. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Lieutenant Colonel Thompson at USAFA. Was a non-vol. Looks like a pretty similar story to Lieutenant Colonel Davidson there. Was expecting pilot, had my pilot license coming into USAFA. Senior year, had some eye issues. Said you can go waiver, but if it doesn't fall through, you'll end up going to Army. Said, hey, give me something else. So it was supposed to be acquisitions, contracting, financial management, but lo and behold, missiles. At the time, space and missiles, and tried to go space because we had family in Colorado and California. The Air Force, missiles picked me, like I heard the comment earlier, and that was in 2005, going into 2006. So it's been almost 18 years, and still loving it. I'm one of the sort of oddballs hitting the other little blue dots on the map. 4 years at the wing, 4 years at Vandenberg. Saw an advertisement to teach at the Air Force Academy. Never thought it would happen, but put my application in, spent 4 years here. Once I got sucked into Colorado Springs, I went to Peterson Space Force Base to do missile defense. And so worked ground-based mid-course defense with our interceptors. So that's almost like a Minuteman look-alike, about the same size, shape. And actually a lot of launches out of Vandenberg get mistaked or mistaken our interceptor launch or test launches. So pretty cool. Get to work that almost in parallel with the Sentinel. We're also bringing on a next gen interceptor, so got to work that and all the ground-based radars detecting incoming missiles and tracking satellite systems. So pretty cool experience there. Now back in cadet wing doing military training. So very odd career. Never expected to be here. One, commissioning, and then early on in my missile career, looking at it. So still around because I love it.
Fantastic. I do just want to verbalize some things that on the recording won't be visible. So we have Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Mezak says 13N is a cool job, but the 13N community alone should make it a top pick. And then Lieutenant Colonel Kyle Davidson says missiles was not on his dream sheet. He's also a USAFA grad. The Cliff Notes version, he was DQ'd from pilot training during his senior year for an eye condition, and it was not on his dream sheet, but he was originally selected for Intel and recorded into Space and Missile before tech school due to some senior leadership decisions. So in the end, it turned out to be great for him and all the folks that he knew in school that went into different into the AFSCs he wanted to go to, all ended up getting out after 5 years. So these handful of anecdotes alone, hopefully, speaks to just how incredible the community is in this career field. And people have mentioned it before, but it is super tight knit, and you just have tons of peers that you form lifelong friendships with, and professional connections as well. Like many of the lieutenant colonels on the line that I got to work with during my time at the wing. So happy you guys are here. Okay, we have, is it more difficult to make 05? Oh, got something popped up to block that question, sorry. Is it more difficult to make 05 and 06 and 13N compared to other operational career fields? Lieutenant Colonel Stump, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, sure. So I think the really relevant point to that question is we do have a lot of 05 and 06 leadership opportunities in our career field. So I wouldn't say that it is more difficult than other career fields. I would say that it's, if you put in the work, and you're a quality officer and you serve the right way, making 05 and 06 is obviously a little bit more difficult to make than 05, but it's definitely uh, in the realm of possibility for you in our career field.
Okay, I got an addition to that from Colonel Mizak there. The 13N career field has up to 4-star generals where other AFSCs do not. So we are, at every echelon, which is super cool. All right, I'll do one last call for questions, and then I'll just wrap it up here if I don't get anything. Okay, nothing heard, nothing seen. Yeah, so with that, I mean, I guess we'll call it a day. Thank you so much for showing up today for the town hall. I want to give an extra special shout out to everyone who briefed today. It was a lot of prep and everything that went into that. So thank you so much for making this a success. And then also to all the other miss who jumped in and were able to share their experiences as well. That is awesome. It's exactly what we want to share, what a 13N life is like. And then to all the cadets who logged in today to learn, I hope you took something away that will help guide your decisions as you go on your, cadet journey, and then your Air Force journey as well, whatever career field you do end up as. We all hope it's 13N, of course, because we love it, but hopefully you learned something today. And then if you do have questions, again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at that email at the bottom there, and we will get to you and make sure you have the answer that you need. With that, that's all I have.